Dennis is so unreliable. It's a hassle. When sales drop, as punishment, he goes without dinner. Ellen, my sister-in-law, harshly treats my father, Dennis, working him from dawn to dusk and even denying him meals. Joseph, my brother, listens and laughs at this. Poor Dad. I'll take him in. I'll be glad to get rid of the useless one. Ellen's words mark the beginning of our family living with Dad. Actually, Dad is like a godsend of happiness. My name is Juliet. I'm a 33-year-old housewife with a part-time job living with my husband, Donald, and our kindergarten-age daughter, Carol. Donald recently took over his father's store and is running a hamburger shop. Donald always looked up to his father working since he was a child. My father-in-law, up from early morning preparing and sweating over delicious hamburgers and fries. To Donald as a boy, his father was more of an idol than any superhero or soccer player. Eating Dad's burgers always gives me energy. Donald's eyes would sparkle saying this. But right after we started dating, the moment I tasted his father's hamburger, I felt the same. What a burger! We married in our mid-20s. A few years later, we were blessed with Carol. Looking back, that was our peak of happiness. Soon after Carol's birth, my father-in-law passed away. Donald's mother had already passed, and his grief at losing both his parents was immense. Donald thought about quitting the shop, but employees and regular customers encouraged him. You're the only one who can carry on this shop, having trained as an apprentice for over 10 years. We want you to preserve that taste forever. You're the only one who can do it. Encouraged by these words, Donald made up his mind. Dad, watch over me from the other side, he said, standing up to the challenge. However, it wasn't smooth sailing from the start, and he struggled quite a bit. Even if he replicated the taste, customers compared him to his predecessor. Only after surpassing his father would they acknowledge it as the inherited taste. Since taking over the business, Donald has been struggling with slow customer traffic. To make matters worse, following his father's death, now my mother has passed away too. I didn't want to leave Dad alone in his sadness, but living an hour away by car made visiting him regularly difficult. Then Joseph offered to move in with him. It was a relief, yet complicated. Joseph has always been a bit irresponsible. Another cause for worry is yet another person. Ellen, Joseph's wife, who happens to be my sister-in-law. What? Your husband dropped out? Unbelievable, she said to us, a couple, at our first meeting. And a part-time job? Not being a full-time housewife means you're a loser as a woman, she would say, looking down on me. Moreover, Joseph and Ellen missed my mother's funeral. Joseph, it seems, quit his corporate job to start a cafe, claiming he had no time. When did you even learn about running a cafe? I asked. I gave up my sales job for a cafe I enjoyed. Thought I might as well start one, he replied nonchalantly, leaving me astounded. Since moving in with Dad, he's apparently been making Dad help in the shop, and without pay. What about Ellen? Shouldn't she be the first to help? I questioned. I don't work. It's natural for a man to provide for his wife, she claimed. What's so natural about that? What is she even talking about in this day and age? Why on earth would Joseph willingly support someone like her? One day, on a rare day off, we decided to visit my family home. Despite informing Joseph in advance, upon arrival, only Ellen was there. Hello, Ellen. Long time no see. Yeah, just come in and do whatever. I'll be watching TV, Ellen said, as nonchalant as ever when we met after a long time. Where's Joseph? He suddenly had to open the shop because of a sales pitch this month, she explained. Oh, really? I was dumbfounded by the news. Well, I actually find it more relaxing without him around, she casually added. Joseph's sudden work was surprising, but Ellen's attitude was even more so. Would anyone say they prefer their spouse's absence in front of their sibling? I entered the living room, but it was empty. Is Dad in his room? I knocked, but no response. When I quietly opened the door and looked inside, I lost my words. The room that used to be my father's was gone. Instead, there was a room entirely in a sickly pink. The pink was really, truly pink. It was the kind of color that makes you want to blink. Ellen, Dad's room is all weird. Could it be that Dad has developed dementia? I rushed to Ellen in the living room, but she was lounging on the sofa watching TV without a hint of concern. "Oh, that's fine. That's my room now," she said dismissively. "What? But that was Dad's study." "It was useless, so I got rid of it. Books don't make money after all." "Gone? So I made it my room. Isn't it cute? A pink room?" I didn't comment on her taste, but I couldn't stay silent about my father. "Doesn't Ellen have a room with Joseph?" "Yes, we took the biggest room, but I wanted my own." "So my old room is—" That's a storage room now." "Storage?" "It's filled with the collections I've been gathering since I was single." In a panic, I opened the door to my old room. Again, blinding pink everywhere. How much does she like pink? "Mom, it's so pink," Carol remarked, peeking into the room. Even young girls who tend to like pink were overwhelmed by this excess. That's how overly pink my former room was. Cardboard boxes piled up near the ceiling. The room was filled with pink items that couldn't fit in. I was worried the floor might collapse. But now something more concerning got my attention. I rushed back to the living room and confronted Ellen, who was hugging a pink cushion. "Where's Dad's room?" Dad's study and my old room were swamped with pink, and the big room was Joseph and Ellen's. Excluding the living room and kitchen, there were only 3 rooms. They used to be my parents', Joseph's, and my room. Joseph's old room had been Dad's study after he moved out. Where on earth was Dad sleeping? I thought he had turned the study into a bedroom. Ellen, to my surprise, said, "He's been sleeping on the sofa," dropping cookie crumbs all over it. "What?" Before I could react, the front door rattled open. There stood my father, pale-faced, being supported by Joseph. "Dad, what happened?" I supported my about-to-collapse father and confronted Joseph. But Joseph just shrugged. "He collapsed while helping at the shop." As if it was no big deal. "Collapsed? What about the hospital?" "Too much trouble." "What?" "Hospitals are a waste of money. Juliet, can you help at the shop if you're free?" "Help you? No way, you useless! Make Ellen work first!" I yelled and then rushed Dad to the hospital. After returning home, I confronted Joseph and Ellen. They said it was overwork. How much do you make Dad work? Yes, Dad collapsed from overwork. Dad was laying on the sofa, and it hit me he really had no proper bed. Contrasting my furious red face, Joseph and Ellen seemed carefree as usual. "It's nothing serious. He was up at 3 a.m. for opening preparations, then serving customers, doing dishes, and cleaning in between, plus closing tasks after 8 p.m. "You're a devil! Even prisons have rest days." My anger was uncontainable at the appalling treatment, but Joseph seemed completely oblivious as to why I was upset. "We're letting him stay with us, so he should at least be useful." "What?" Ellen, agreeing with Joseph, stared at me. "That's right, Juliet. Dennis is so useless it's frustrating. On days when the sales are down, we skip his meals as punishment, but it seems it's still not enough. Oh, and of course he's skipping meals today, too." "What?" "Wait, what did she just say? Useless? Punishment? Skipping meals? Unbelievable!" The Dad I met after so long was physically and mentally exhausted. The tyranny was so extreme, I was too angry for words. "Well, that's how it is, so, Juliet, please take him with you." "Huh?" Confused by Ellen's nonsensical words, a Boston bag was placed before me. "What's this?" "Dennis's entire belongings." "All of Dad's belongings are just this?" "Yes." "That's impossible. All of Dad's personal items from this house in just one Boston bag?" I looked at Joseph incredulously, and he nodded smugly. "Really? Just this one bag?" "That's why we're asking you to take this good-for-nothing off our hands." "Huh?" Ellen's words left me speechless. Joseph nodded in agreement. "Yeah, it's a nuisance to have him any longer. He's useless, so take care of him, Juliet." No! I was close to exploding at Joseph and Ellen's flippant attitudes. That was when it happened. Carol's bright voice echoed through the room. "Yay! Grandpa's coming to live with us!" I hadn't expected Carol, who Donald was attending to be listening. Confused, I asked her, "Do you want to live with Grandpa?" "Yes, I want to live with Grandpa." Carol was young and probably didn't fully grasp the situation, but her words helped me decide. I looked at Donald, holding Carol. Donald, he must have understood the plea in my eyes. Donald quietly nodded.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take Dennis in.
Thank you. Our family isn't rich. The hamburger shop isn't doing well, and my part-time job doesn't bring in much. Life will definitely get harder, but it's necessary. I can't just leave Dad like this. Dad, I gently spoke to Dad, who was lying down. Let's go home. Let's go back to our house together. As I said this, Dad opened his eyes slightly and whispered, Good riddance to the useless one. Ellen threw those words at us as we left. Despite her words, we took Dad home with us. I felt indescribably frustrated. Not only was I furious about losing our beloved family home, but I also felt pathetic for trusting Joseph like that. I'm sorry, Dad. I had no idea Joseph had become like this. Joseph, though always a bit careless, wasn't this bad before. He had his rebellious phases, clashing with parents, but I never imagined he could be so cruel. But Dad, with a weak smile, said,
Don't worry, it's my responsibility for raising Joseph that way, and I pushed myself too hard trying to be of help to my son.
I almost cried at Dad's kindness. Holding back tears, I said, You don't have to work anymore. We can't afford luxuries, but please rest. With Carol still in kindergarten, I couldn't increase my part-time hours. But I plan to increase my hours when Carol starts elementary school. If possible, I'll even aim for a full-time position. There's more I can do for Dad and our family. I'll do my best.
Thank you.
Dad smiled at me as I clenched my fist in determination. After that, calm days followed. Dad, having rested well, was completely rejuvenated. Now he even plays with Carol. She's overjoyed to live with her beloved grandpa. Life is tough, but I don't regret welcoming Dad. He offered his pension to help with living expenses, but I declined. Apparently, Dad's savings are almost gone. It seems Joseph and Ellen had been draining them significantly under the guise of shared living expenses. What nonsense! That meant their dismissal of him as useless might have also meant he was financially depleted. Such an absurd couple. The days remained peaceful for a while, but gradually changes began to appear. Changes came to Donald, specifically to Donald's shop, the hamburger place. Lately there seem to be more customers, Donald mumbled one day. Really? That's good, isn't it? Yeah, I guess so. His hesitant response made me curious. If it's busy, isn't that good? I keep improving the taste through daily research, but it feels like there's more to it than that. What do you mean? I don't know. As the shop owner, if Donald doesn't know, there's no way I would know. What could it be? That conversation ended there. I turned to Dad. Dad? I have a part-time job tomorrow morning. Can you have lunch at the shop?
Okay.
Dad's appetite, thankfully, was still robust. On days I couldn't prepare lunch, he'd eat at Donald's shop. Donald tries to keep the calories in check, but Dad seems to really like the original flavors. Moreover, he insists on paying, despite my protests.
No mixing business with personal matters. If you take pride in your cooking, you should accept payment.
So Donald now accepts the payment without argument. The next day, after putting Carol to bed, Donald burst through the door explaining, I figured it out! What have you?
The reason for the shop's success.
Oh? What is it?
Well, this person did this and that, and then this happened.
Come on, speak clearly.
Same goes for you.
We both needed to calm down. After gulping down some cold water, Donald became more composed. Sitting on the sofa, he began to explain what happened that day.
This afternoon, during a quiet period, Dennis came in.
And?
As soon as he entered, people gathered around him.
Really?
Dennis is a god of happiness.
What? What is he talking about? Dad's just an ordinary old man, Donald continued.
I asked one of the regulars. Turns out, Dad's life advice is popular.
What?
I was always too busy with prep and cooking to notice, but Dad has been giving life advice to customers.
That's... What? Here's what apparently happened. Dad, having visited Donald's shop frequently, became a familiar face. Being a former teacher with a way of speaking that carries weight, he inadvertently began giving advice. While eating our hamburgers, Dad gave advice to a customer, who then got promoted. Really? A part-time worker who heard about this came and consulted with Dennis while eating chicken nuggets together. Uh-huh. Then he got into his dream company, and now he works as a full-time employee. Really? Another woman consulted with Dennis about her cheating boyfriend while eating a hamburger and fries. Yes. Now she's married to an Arabian oil tycoon. You're kidding. Actually, she just found a new boyfriend and got married successfully. There's now an urban legend that consulting with Dennis while eating our menu items leads to a positive turn in life. What is he talking about? Doubtful of this suspicious information, I skeptically looked at Donald. Just then, Dad, having finished his shower, appeared, so I asked him. Hey, Dad, did you give anyone advice today? Oh, yes. I guess I have an approachable vibe due to my age. What was it about today? Let's see. A father troubled with his reclusive son, and a university student who just learned he was going to repeat a year. It's true, then. It seems Dad did give advice. But from what I heard, these seemed like unsolvable issues. That night I pondered the strange situation. But a few days later, I got the results, Donald said solemnly. Okay, I'll listen to this urban legend. And? That father of the reclusive son whom Dennis advised? Yes. The son came out of his room and started a part-time job. He came crying to report it. Really? Followed Dennis's advice to the letter in talking with his son. Huh. And the university student? Well, since he was already repeating, I thought maybe he just got motivated. He managed to advance! How? Turns out he argued passionately with a strict professor who failed him. As a result, his report was accepted, and he advanced! That seems a bit far-fetched. I didn't go to university, so I don't know. But isn't that how reports work? Well, it depends on the professor. So Dad's reputation kept growing. But then, there were people who just came for advice without buying anything. That's bold. To occupy a seat without buying anything? That takes some nerve. Dennis doesn't give much advice to those people. Things apparently got worse for them. Wait, so... Yes! Dennis is amazing! No, not that. Huh? Isn't it because your cooking is getting better? You had to say it. Donald was genuinely saddened by the blunt truth. But well, if it wasn't tasty, they'd just buy the cheapest items or a drink. Everyone's ordering proper dishes, so it must be somewhat tasty. Somewhat? Regardless of the reason, Donald's shop was prospering. Even on days and times when Dad didn't visit, customers kept coming, so it must be delicious. Good for you, Donald. Just when everything seemed to be going well, the storm we had forgotten about arrived. Yes, Joseph and Ellen. It happened when I was off work and visiting Donald's shop with Dad. Before the shop even opened, the door burst open with Joseph and Ellen shouting, "Give back our father!" It was them, with intense expressions. Joseph, approaching me aggressively, exclaimed, "I saw it on the internet. Dad's life advice has made this place a huge success, right? My shop, even with Dad's help, had terrible sales, and now it's on the brink of closure. What's with this difference? You were the one who dumped all the work on Dad. How could he possibly have time for life advice in such a busy situation?" Ugh! Joseph stumbled over his words, hit by the painful truth. Then Ellen pushed past him, saying, "We won't make him work anymore. He just has to sit and give life advice. Come on, Dennis wants to live in his own home, right? We've come to take him back, so let's go." What an absurd, self-serving argument. I'm appalled that they would so easily change their tune after driving Dad out themselves. There's no way I would hand Dad over to such terrible people. I was about to retort, but Dad put his hand in front of me, signaling me to stop. Then, silently standing in front of Joseph and Ellen, who were at a loss for words, Dad calmly said, "I see your point. Without change, your shop will fail. So, Dad, you should give life advice at our shop. Listen, those who come to me for advice first want to eat here. Really? Your cafe is no good. Completely terrible." "That can't be." "It is. Have you ever properly learned how to make coffee?" "I thought I could figure it out from the internet." "That's your level of taste. The cakes and other desserts are so bad they're inedible." "That's
Such offerings would naturally lead to falling sales and potential closure.
But Joseph was at a loss for words at Dad's harsh criticism. He seemed unable to come up with a rebuttal.
Don't mock the profession.
What?
Who will come to a shop with such carelessness in its offerings? People come here because they want good food and conversation. Your shop must be so bad that no one comes, right? Well, that's...
Exactly. Joseph was speechless.
No one comes. No one comes. No one to advise. Start from scratch. I have nothing to lend to such brats.
Dad's words silenced Joseph and Ellen, and he shouted once more,
Don't mock the work.
Afterwards, Joseph and Ellen, defeated by Dad's words, reluctantly left. So they had a conversation with Dad without buying anything. What happened next? Exactly. If you consult without eating, things get worse. Joseph's shop closed soon after. The debt accumulated for opening it had grown far beyond repayment. Dad had given the family home to Joseph as sort of a severance, but selling the old house didn't cover the debt. Now they live a life of poverty in an old apartment. Not just Joseph, but Ellen also had debts. The indebted couple must be having tough days. Our family, on the other hand, is living well. Donald's shop is busier, and I quit my part-time job to help. It's hard work, but it's a joy to be alongside Donald at work. Dad, still full of energy, helps by looking after Carol when we're busy. He hardly does life advice anymore, but customers still come, showing recognition for Donald's efforts, which makes us very happy. Today, Donald is making delicious hamburgers for everyone. For everyone's smiles and energy.